They called us backward. Dirtborn, a species still crawling toward the stars on hands and knees. When the Syndicate armada arrived, they didn't fire a shot. They just hovered above Earth like gods watching ants, cloaked in smug silence and polished chrome. To them, we were nothing. A footnote in galactic history, another soft world to exploit. They didn't conquer us with war. They did it with pity. Dropped crates of their old tech into our orbit and called it aid. They handed over rusted weapons, half-dead AIs, and fusion drives that leaked like sieves. Use this, they said, until you're worthy of something better. We were expected to say thank you. Cole Maddox didn't thank them. He was a mechanic once, used to fix mining rigs on Europa, didn't care about politics or alien diplomacy, but he knew metal, knew how to strip a plasma torch and rewire its guts blindfolded. When the Syndicate gave us their scraps, Cole didn't see garbage. He saw opportunity. They think we're pets, he said the first night we dragged a busted Syndicate scout engine into Dock 7. Let's show 'em we still bite. Dock 7 was nothing more than a hangar carved into the side of Olympus Mons. The air always smelled of hot steel and cold sweat. The crew was a skeleton team. Engineers, welders, rogue programmers, and a few ex-military who didn't like the idea of licking boots with scales. No government sanctioned what we were doing. They were too busy playing nice with the aliens, hoping to be rewarded like obedient slaves. Cole didn't wait for permission. He called the project the Blade, said it was going to be the ship that cut through the Syndicate's arrogance. Every day we scavenged more. Hull fragments from Syndicate junk heaps, reactor cores with bad regulators, a torpedo tube built out of repurposed fuel lines. It was a patchwork death machine held together by spite and duct tape. He led the work with his own hands, never barked orders from a distance. You'd find him knee-deep in coolant or crawling through engine ducts, reprogramming systems one bad code line at a time. When morale dropped, he didn't give speeches. He pointed to the nearest broken thing and said, "Fix it, or we die." Nobody questioned him. The ship took shape slowly, like a ghost pulling itself out of a grave. It was ugly, sharp-angled, armored unevenly, engines jury-rigged from 3 different species tech. But it was fast, and quiet, and deadly, and it was ours. The Syndicate never noticed. Too arrogant to believe humans could do anything with the trash they tossed at us. That was their first mistake. The second was leaving a live targeting AI core in one of the decommissioned cruisers. Cole hacked it, taught it to think like us, dirty, unpredictable, angry. We named it Whisper. It didn't talk much, but when it locked onto a target, it didn't miss. We launched the Blade on a cold rotation night when Syndicate orbital scans were at their lowest. No lights, no pings, no trail, just silence. The first strike was against one of their refinery freighters. We hit it with a kinetic rod. No energy signature, just mass and velocity. Split the hull like an egg. We didn't hide who we were. Cole made sure of that. He embedded a message in the wreck's distress beacon in 100 alien tongues. "This is humanity. You gave us junk. We made a weapon. Now we're taking back what's ours." The Syndicate was confused, angry, terrified. They sent a warship to investigate. It never returned. Cole watched the wreckage spin through the void from the cockpit, eyes cold. "Next time," he muttered, "send 2. The smell inside the Blade was always the same. Burnt copper, recycled air, and sweat. It was a coffin with teeth, barely held together, screaming through space on engines that had no business functioning. But it worked. And for Cole Maddox, that was enough. After the second strike, when the Syndicate destroyer Trellinox vanished off their sensors, the war finally began. They didn't call it that, of course. Officially, Earth was still part of the Syndicate's Protectorate Alliance. But in the dark between stars, where no diplomats watched and no treaties mattered, we were taking their ships apart, piece by piece. Not with fleets, with one ship. Ours. Cole sat in the command chair, hunched forward, chewing on a stick of dried root he claimed helped him focus. His boots were stained with coolant. His eyes hadn't seen sleep in 2 days. "Whisper. Report," he said. The AI's voice came through the speaker like static, whispering secrets. "Syndicate frigate convoy detected. 3 vessels, moving through Corridor Delta. Escort formation. Pattern suggests fuel transport. Vulnerable points identified." Uploading. Cole nodded slowly. On the cracked screen in front of him, 3 ships floated in a neat line. Too neat. "They've learned," he muttered. Sitting nearby, Juno, his weapons tech and probably the only person who ever dared question him, raised an eyebrow. "That convoy's bait." "I know. And we're going anyway?" Cole looked at her. "Of course." She chuckled under her breath and began warming the cannons. The entire crew knew the drill by now. There were no debriefings, no democratic votes. Cole pointed, they moved. Not because he was a dictator, because he was always right. He had the kind of instinct you couldn't teach, and no one aboard the Blade had any interest in dying under someone who didn't have it. They drifted into the corridor slow, silent, with engine power minimized. The Blade was good at hiding. Its hull was a patchwork quilt of repurposed metals, some of which bent radar waves better than Syndicate stealth coating. It didn't look like a warship. It looked like wreckage, and wreckage passed unnoticed, until it struck. "Closing in on convoy," Whisper said. "Power signatures confirm 1 gunship escort, light shielding, no plasma cores." "Hit the gunship's reactor vent. Quietly," Cole said. A single harpoon round launched from the Blade's underbelly. It was old tech, physical weaponry, not plasma or energy, nothing flashy. Just a titanium spike laced with thermite, aimed directly at a vent the size of a manhole. The spike embedded itself, ignited. The gunship didn't explode right away. It twisted, twitched, then split in 2 with a slow, burning groan. The remaining ships began to scatter. Too late. "Light 'em up," Cole said. Juno triggered the dual ion burst cannons. They weren't meant for precision. They were meant to overwhelm. The second escort didn't even get a transmission out before its cockpit incinerated. The third ship, the fuel transport, tried to run. It got 10 clicks before the Blade's grappling system latched on. Cole opened a channel. "Identify yourself," he said. The image on screen flickered. A Syndicate officer, scaled and silver-eyed, stared back with thinly veiled disdain. "You're the Earth vermin, the pirate. You have no idea what you're doing." Cole tilted his head. "You think this is piracy?" The officer spat in his own language. "You delay the inevitable. You're insects with stolen tools." "We didn't steal anything," Cole said. "You gave it to us." Then he cut the transmission. "Juno, bring their engines offline. Permanently." The transport groaned as its drive system imploded. They weren't going to kill the crew. Not this time. Let the message spread. Cole wasn't trying to win a battle. He was trying to start a fire. They returned to Olympus Mons 2 days later, navigating a maze of old asteroid fields that only Whisper could chart. Earth's governments still denied the Blade existed. Publicly, they issued statements of peaceful integration with the Syndicate. Behind closed doors, some of them were funding Cole. Others were praying he failed before the aliens noticed their cowardice. Dock 7 had grown. What used to be a hidden hangar was now a full-blown underground movement. Engineers from across Earth had smuggled themselves up through orbital elevators and back-channel transport. They brought tools, ideas, rage. As the blade docked, a tall man in a wrinkled suit waited near the lift platform. Government, not the helpful kind. Cole stepped off the ramp, boots echoing, shirt half-buttoned, a burn mark streaking his sleeve. He didn't slow down. "Captain Maddox," the man called. "We need to talk." "No, you need to leave," Cole replied. "You're escalating things," the man warned. "There are discussions underway. You're making diplomacy harder." Cole paused, turned, and stared at the man. They turned New Dakar into a glass crater. There's nothing left to discuss. "That was an unfortunate misfire," the suit muttered. "You mean they murdered a city to make a point?" Cole stepped forward, inches away now. "I'm making mine. You can tell your committee I don't work for you. I work for the people who can't fight back." He walked past without waiting for a response. That night, in the crew quarters, Juno brought him a bottle of synthetic whiskey. Terrible stuff, but it burned, and that was what mattered. "You keep pissing off suits, eventually they'll do something stupid," she said, sitting across from him. "They already did," Cole said, sipping. "They surrendered. Any leads on the next target?" "Whisper picked up something weird. A syndicate carrier is making rounds along the edge of our system. Not mining, not patrolling, just watching." Juno frowned. "Scouting us? Or baiting us? Either way, you're going." Cole gave a tired grin. "You knew that before you asked. Just hoping for the day you say no." "Not today." 3 days later, the Blade was back in open space, chasing a ghost. The syndicate carrier was massive, 20 times their size, built like a fortress with wings. But it was slow, designed to intimidate, not to chase. Cole studied it from a safe distance, the Blade hidden in the radioactive belt of a dead moon. "Something's wrong," Whisper muttered. Cole leaned in. "Explain." "The carrier has no escort." Juno looked up from her console. "That's insane. Those things don't leave their fleets." "It's bait," Cole said. "But bait for what?" He stared at the screen, mind racing. The syndicate had finally started paying attention, which meant one thing. They weren't trying to stop the Blade anymore. They were trying to trap it. "Run a scan on nearby debris fields," he ordered. "Anything with a heat signature magnetic resonance, I want flagged." Whisper processed. 2 anomalies detected. Both masked, estimated 8 to 10 cloaked frigates within 10 clicks of the carrier. Cole exhaled. There it is. He didn't smile. He didn't panic. He leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed. "Send a probe," he said. "Standard beacon, let them find it." Juno looked at him like he was mad. "You want to trigger them?" "We're not fighting their trap," Cole said. "We're flipping it." The probe launched, deliberately loud, a flare in the dark. The syndicate ships broke cloak immediately, like wolves rushing a wounded animal. They didn't know the probe was a bomb. They didn't know Whisper had already sliced their comms. And they didn't know the Blade had laid its own trap. Cole activated the rigged asteroids. 15 explosive charges hidden across the belt. One by one they erupted, sending razor-sharp debris spiraling into the syndicate ambush. Hulls ruptured, engines flared, frigates spun into one another in flaming chaos. The carrier began to retreat, but Cole was already moving. "Hit it," he said. The Blade surged forward, plasma torpedoes launching in pairs. The carrier's shields took the first hit. The second tore through the hull. Then Whisper's hacked code took over the carrier's targeting system. It turned on its own ships. By the time the syndicate figured out what was happening, they were alone, bleeding, and the Blade was gone. Back on Olympus Mons, Cole didn't celebrate. There was nothing to cheer. The syndicate would retaliate, hard. But now they knew. Humanity wasn't rolling over. Cole stood in the command bay, looking out at the stars. "We've made our choice," he said softly. Behind him, Juno lit a cigarette. "Yeah, And now we find out what it costs." Cole didn't respond. His eyes were locked on the stars, already calculating the next move. "They gave us scrap. We gave them hell." The retaliation came at dawn, not Earth's dawn, but a red glow sunrise on Titan's mining colony. It used to be a thriving trade outpost run by independent Earth contractors. Now it was a crater. The Syndicate didn't just bomb it. They turned the atmosphere itself into a weapon. Thousands died before the evacuation alarms even started. When the reports came in, Cole didn't speak. He stood in front of the flickering holofeed, fists clenched so tight the bones in his hand popped. "This is their message," Juno said behind him. "They can hit us anywhere." Cole's voice was low, graveled. "Then we hit them everywhere." A week later, Dock 7 was flooded with new faces. Survivors, volunteers, deserters from Earth's official defense force who'd finally had enough of diplomatic handshakes and syndicate leashes. Cole walked through the loading bays, watching the chaos as crew after crew unloaded crates of black market weapons, stolen fuel cells, scrap metal, and anger. Everyone wanted a part of the blade. But Cole knew the truth. They weren't ready. Half of them were kids. The other half didn't know a fusion injector from a microwave coil. He met with Lieutenant Saren, a former Earth Navy officer who defected after the Titan attack. He brought not just gear, but intel. "They've begun massing near Proxima," Saren said, dropping a holodisk onto the table. 4 dreadnoughts, 10 cruisers, and something else. Something big. Cole raised an eyebrow. "Define big." Saren looked uncomfortable. "They call it the Harrower, a ship the size of a city. Not meant for war, meant for extinction. It's powered by a neutronium reactor. Unstable, unpredictable, but they've stabilized it, barely." Cole picked up the disk and slid it into the console. The image of the Harrower came to life. Massive, grotesque, spiked like a weaponized cathedral. "They're not here to rule anymore," he said. "They want to end us." "We need to evacuate Earth," Saren said quietly. Cole looked at him. "Number, we don't run. We fight." "You can't fight that," Saren snapped. "The blade is a miracle, but it's not a fleet. That thing could level continents." Cole stared at the screen. "Then we make sure it never gets the chance." Preparations for the next mission began at once. Whisper had already intercepted partial transmissions about the Harrower's fuel route. A Syndicate dreadhauler carrying neutronium cells was en route through the Argo Belt, guarded by 3 cruisers. Cole's plan was simple, but suicidal. Intercept the hauler. Destroy it. Deny the Harrower its fuel. The trick was doing it without getting torn to pieces. Juno walked into the war room with 2 cups of synth-caf. "You know what we're walking into, right?" Cole took the cup and nodded. "Yeah, a hornet's nest made of plasma and ego." She gave him a look. "We're not gods, Cole. We're just pissed-off ants with a stolen matchstick." He grinned. "Then let's set their hive on fire." The Argo Belt was a scrapyard of ancient battles. Old satellites, broken stations, abandoned civilian cruisers, all drifted in a slow death ballet across the stars. Whisper used it as cover, guiding the blade through debris fields so thick the radar barely functioned. The convoy appeared exactly where Saren said it would. 3 cruisers in an inverted triangle formation, with the hauler nestled in the center like a sacred relic. The hauler itself was massive, crawling forward like a bloated insect, its core pulsing with unstable energy. Juno exhaled. "If we hit that thing wrong, it'll make Titan look like a firecracker." Cole studied the structure. "Whisper. Identify structural weaknesses. Processing. Recommend targeting magnetic stabilizers at midship. Disabling those will cause internal drift, forcing emergency shutdown, safer than core detonation." "Good," Cole said. "We don't need it to blow. We just need it dead in the water." They moved silently. At 5 clicks out, the cruisers began scanning, but Whisper fed them false echoes, phantom ships, heat blooms in empty space. The Syndicate scrambled to react, rotating to face the wrong direction. That's when Cole gave the order. "Full burn. Hit and vanish." The blade shot forward, breaking from the debris cloud like a ghost with a grudge. Its cannon screamed. The first round hit one cruiser's bridge, instant silence. The second slammed into the hauler's stabilizer, clean, precise. The hauler shuddered violently, its lights dimming. Alarms lit up across the enemy fleet. The remaining cruisers turned, weapons hot. "Brace!" Juno yelled. A plasma lance skimmed the blade's wing, slicing a long black scar across the hull. The ship shook, but held. Whisper responded in kind, overriding the signal frequencies of one cruiser's turret control. The weapons turned inward and fired, gutting their own engine. The third cruiser launched drones, sleek, fast, deadly. "EMP burst," Cole ordered. The blast shut down half the drones. The other half kept coming. Juno manually fired rear torpedoes, hitting 2. A third slammed into the side hull and exploded, rocking the ship, blinding the cabin. Cole's vision swam, ears ringing, but when the smoke cleared, the hauler was drifting. Dark. Cold. Dead. "Mission complete," Whisper whispered. Cole slumped back in his chair, heart pounding. "Get us out of here." They limped back to Olympus Mons with 3 stabilizers offline, hull breaches on decks 3 and 5, and a radiation leak in the rear corridor. Half the crew had burns or concussions, but they were alive. And the Syndicate's harrower wouldn't be moving anytime soon. For the first time, they'd landed a blow that truly hurt. The reaction was immediate. Across Earth's underground networks, Cole Maddox became a name spoken like a prayer. The blade was no longer a myth. It was hope. Colonies on Ganymede, Europa, even rogue Mars stations began rallying under the same sigil, a broken sword, reforged. But not everyone celebrated. In the Council of Earth, a governing body that barely pretended independence, panic set in. Fearful of Syndicate retaliation, they branded Cole a rogue, a war criminal. They issued a kill order on his head. They didn't know it yet, but it was too late. Cole had stopped working for Earth the moment Earth stopped working for its people. He gathered his crew. "This won't end with one battle," he said, "or one ship. The Syndicate thinks this was luck. We're going to show them it was strategy." Juno, bruised and bandaged, nodded. "And what about Earth's little bounty on your head?" Cole smirked. "Let them try. We've killed gods before." The crew erupted into laughter, tired, bloody, stubborn laughter. That night, Cole stood alone in the viewing chamber. The stars blinked coldly outside. Somewhere in that sea, the harrower waited, crippled but not dead, and behind it, more ships, more soldiers, more Syndicate nightmares. But Cole wasn't afraid. They gave us scrap, he thought, and we built the blade. Now it was time to teach the galaxy just how sharp it could be. They came in the dead of the rotation. 3 sleek Earth patrol cutters, posing as traders, requesting emergency docking clearance at Olympus Mons. The codes checked out. The names, the cargo manifest, all clean. Cole Maddox still didn't trust them. He watched from the upper level of Dock 7, arms folded across his chest, eyes narrowed as the ships descended. Juno stood beside him, chewing her lip, her hand resting near the grip of her sidearm. "You think they're here for trade?" she asked. "No," Cole muttered. "They're here for me." Juno sighed. "We should have expected this. The Council wasn't going to sit back forever." "They're scared," Cole said. "They think if they cut off the head, the rebellion dies." "Are they wrong?" He looked at her. Not angry, not defensive, just tired. Number, they're late. The meeting was held in the old ops chamber, a low-lit war room carved into volcanic stone, patched together with repurposed syndicate steel. Cole sat at the end of the long table, flanked by Whisper's terminal on one side and Juno on the other. Across from him, Captain Elias Rourke of Earth Security Command removed his gloves and offered a smile Cole didn't return. "Captain Maddox," Rourke began smoothly. "Or should I say, Commander Now?" Cole leaned forward. "Let's skip the diplomacy. You're here for my head. Say it." Rourke's smile didn't fade. "Actually, I'm here with a compromise. The Council recognizes your effectiveness. You've managed to do what our entire fleet failed to: disrupt Syndicate supply lines, cripple their Dreadnought project, unite the colonies under a single banner." "And they want to take credit," Cole said flatly. "They want to survive," Rourke corrected. "And they want to offer you a command, officially, under Earth's flag, unlimited access to resources, ships, soldiers, but under supervision." Cole let the silence stretch, then stood slowly. He circled the table, approaching Rourke with calm, measured steps. "You bombed our name across every secure channel, labeled us terrorists, traitors. You tried to assassinate me 3 times. Rourke's jaw tensed. "And now that the people stand with us, you want a leash on my neck?" "You're a symbol, Maddox, but symbols can be dangerous without structure." Cole stopped in front of him. "I don't want your structure. I don't want your orders. I want the Syndicate to burn." "And if you go too far?" Rourke said, rising. "If your blade cuts more than it should?" Cole didn't blink. "Then I'll sharpen it again." Rourke exhaled. "This is your last chance. Come back into the fold, or be marked as a permanent enemy of Earth." Cole turned his back to him. "You already made that choice for me." Juno opened the door. 2 guards escorted Rourke out without resistance. That night, the lights dimmed early. A power fluctuation, a common glitch in Dock 7's overburdened grid. No one thought much of it, until the gunfire started. Cole rolled from his cot at the first shot, grabbing the plasma pistol from beneath his bed. Alarms blared. Whisper's voice echoed over the comm. "Infiltration detected. Hostiles inside perimeter, 14 confirmed, armed with cloaking fields and disruptor rounds." Cole kicked open his door, Juno already sprinting down the hallway with a rifle in hand. "Council's pet dogs," she shouted. "They didn't take the hint." Together they moved through smoke and chaos, gunfire echoing down the steel corridors. The assassins wore black armor. Council issue. No insignias. One popped into view at the end of the corridor. Cole fired first. The blast hit center mass, throwing the man backward like a rag doll. Another came up behind a crate. Juno dropped him with a shot to the visor. They fought like a single organism, 2 halves of a single relentless will. The Blade's crew had their backs. Saren, bleeding from a shoulder wound, still barking orders and tossing rifles to new recruits. Cole reached the generator room, only to find it under siege. 3 council operatives were planting charges near the fusion cells. If they triggered them, the entire colony would go up. He didn't think. He moved, dove through smoke, fired 3 times. 1 missed, 2 didn't. A blade came at him from the left, one of the assassins still alive, crouched behind a pipe. Cole blocked it with his forearm, took the pain, and headbutted the attacker into the wall. He turned and yanked the charges from the cell. Silence fell. Smoke drifted. Blood pooled. Cole stood in the middle of it, breathing heavy. They hadn't come to kill him. They'd come to kill all of them. The next day, 30 bodies were buried outside Dock 7. Friends, fighters, engineers who never picked up a gun until it was too late. Cole stood beside the graves, staring at the blank metal slabs that marked each one. Juno came up behind him. She didn't speak at first. Still think we're not gods? He asked quietly. She sighed. You're not, but you might be a devil now. He looked at her and didn't deny it. Word spread fast. Earth had turned its back for good. The colonies didn't care. Neither did the rebels. In fact, more came. Ships flew the Blade's colors now, a new fleet forming, pieced together like their flagship had been. Ugly, desperate, strong. Cole sat in the Blade's command chair 2 days later, staring at a star map. The Harrower was on the move again. A new hauler had been dispatched, this time heavily guarded. "Whisper, run models," he said. The AI clicked softly. "Engaging the convoy in open space results in 97.3% casualty rate. Current resources insufficient. Recommend strategic ambush." Cole frowned. "Where?" "Outer ring of Solari drift. Gravitational anomalies may interfere with their shield harmonics." "Risks?" "Severe. Navigation becomes erratic. Communications unreliable. Any failure in system coordination may result in complete destruction." Cole leaned back. "Perfect." Juno groaned. "You're going to get us all killed." He smirked. "We've been dead since they landed on Earth. We just forgot to lie down." She shook her head, smiling despite herself. "You're insane." "Insane people don't build blades out of trash." "Touché." The Solari drift was a graveyard of planets, a failed solar system where massive gas giants once tore each other apart. What remained were fields of magnetic storms, drifting planetary cores, and shifting gravitational wells that made traditional ships short-circuit or vanish entirely. Which is exactly why Cole chose it. As the convoy entered the drift, Cole waited in silence. The Blade floated dormant, every system on minimal power. Even the life support had been redirected through emergency reserves. The convoy crept forward cautiously. They knew something was wrong. They just didn't know what. Then the magnetics surged, and Cole struck. EMP bursts fired first, crippling 2 escort ships. Ion cannons followed, hitting hard and fast, disabling stabilizers. But the Syndicate had learned. They responded with a new weapon. Gravity mines. One hit the Blade's wing, tearing a third of the plating off. Alarms screamed. "Reactor instability," Whisper shouted. Cole didn't flinch. "Ignore it. Juno, take the hauler, now." Juno launched a precision torpedo, striking the hauler's engine node. The ship went dark, but another mine detonated, ripping a hole in Deck 4. Whisper's systems began to fail, and then, as all hope seemed on the edge, something happened. The fleet, the new rebel ships, they arrived. Earth-born freighters modified for war. Mars haulers with stolen Syndicate guns. Even an old Jovian station that had been turned into a mobile battering ram. They swarmed in like wolves, and the Syndicate convoy crumbled. When the dust cleared, the second fuel hauler was destroyed. The Harrower wouldn't move again. Cole stood in the command chamber of the Blade, blood dripping from a gash across his forehead. The stars burned outside. Juno sat beside him, holding a cracked console in place with both hands. They were alive, barely, but the galaxy knew something now. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were winning, and all they'd started with was scrap. The Harrower hadn't moved in 6 days. That worried Cole more than anything. Sat like a bloated monster just outside the Saturnian shadow line, half shrouded in black space and half lit by slivers of sunlight. Its systems pulsed faintly, slow and deliberate, like a creature waiting to strike. Surveillance probes confirmed the neutronium core hadn't gone live yet, but shielding enhancements had been detected. The Syndicate was reinforcing it, expecting another attack. Cole sat alone in the Blade's briefing chamber, a small cracked tablet in one hand. He wasn't reading, just holding it, thinking. The mission had cost them more than blood and ships, after Solari Drift, 3 of their allied vessels had gone missing. Whisper's diagnostics were compromised. Juno hadn't spoken since the medics pulled shrapnel from her shoulder. And now, more than ever, the fleet, his fleet, was asking the question no one wanted to say out loud. Was it worth it? A soft knock broke the silence. Cole didn't answer. The door opened anyway. It was Saren. The former Earth Navy lieutenant looked like hell. Gray eyes sunken, beard overgrown, uniform scorched at the collar. He carried a datapad in one hand and a bottle of contraband Earth whiskey in the other. "Drink?" Saren offered, lifting the bottle. Cole grunted. "Don't tempt me." Saren sat across from him, dropped the datapad on the table. "We lost the Red Shift and Mercy's Edge. Confirmed. No survivors." Cole nodded slowly. No emotion. Just a mental tally mark in a long row of the dead. "They were kids," Saren added. "The ones on Edge, fresh out of lunar training. Barely had time to repaint the hull before we sent them in." "Yeah," Cole said softly. "And they died heroes." Saren didn't flinch, but his voice hardened. "We keep calling everyone who dies a hero. One day there won't be anyone left to fight." Cole finally looked at him. "You think I don't know that?" "I think you're walking a knife's edge, Maddox, and the crew's starting to feel it. They've followed you through hell because you made them believe we could win, but right now they're bleeding out in silence." Cole stood, jaw clenched. "You want me to stand down? Let the harrower go hot and wipe out half the solar system?" "No," Saren said quietly. "I want you to win without turning into the thing we're fighting." That stuck. Cole didn't answer. He walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. He'd been called a lot of things: savior, criminal, monster. The truth? He didn't know which one fit anymore. Later that night, Cole called a meeting. Every captain in the Resistance fleet. Every surviving officer from the Blade and its allied ships. They met inside the central cavern of Dock 7, beneath a crude steel banner painted with a blade splitting a syndicate crest in 2. Cole stood at the center, no podium, no title. Just a man in a scorched jacket with more ghosts behind him than crew in front of him. He began without fanfare. "We've come a long way," he said. "Started with scraps, junk, leftovers from the bastards who thought we'd roll over." Silence. "They thought they'd feed us their garbage and we'd say thank you. Instead, we gave them hell." A few nods. Someone in the back murmured, "Damn right." "We've won battles we weren't supposed to survive. We've crippled ships that ruled whole systems. But this next part..." He paused. "This next part could end everything." He keyed a projection. The harrower flickered into view. Massive, ugly, a dark god drifting in the void. "Full neutronium payload," he said. "When it activates, it can level a planet. We stop it now, or we lose Earth." A ripple of unease spread across the room. Saren spoke first. "You have a plan?" Cole nodded. "We infiltrate. We board it. We destroy the core from the inside." That sent shockwaves through the room. Half the captains stood. One, an old Martian freighter commander named Bellamy, spoke with a sneer. "You want to board the harrower? Are you out of your mind? That thing's the size of Manhattan." Cole didn't blink. "Size doesn't matter. It's the blind spots that do." Juno finally recovered, and standing beside him, stepped forward. "We've been mapping those blind spots for weeks. Ventilation shafts, maintenance routes, docking latches they haven't reconfigured since the upgrade. If we time it right, we can slip a strike team in while the core's in diagnostic cool-down." Another captain, a grizzled lunar rep, spoke up. "You know what the harrower's guards are like. Even if we get in, we'll be cut to pieces." Cole's voice dropped low. "Then we cut back." Silence. And then one voice rose, Saren. "I'm in." A beat later, Juno. Me too. And one by one, every captain stepped forward. Even Bellamy. Cole didn't smile. He didn't need to. 3 days later, the blade drifted silently through the black, cloaked and cold, hiding in the magnetic distortion just beyond Saturn's ringed horizon. The boarding team was small, 12 people total. Cole, Juno, Saren, and 9 of their best. Engineers who could rig bombs, soldiers who knew how to keep their hearts quiet, and whisper in a portable node wired to Cole's gauntlet. Their plan was simple. Enter through the Harrower's maintenance lock near the tertiary exhaust, bypass the Syndicate's interior AI defenses, and plant 2 fusion destabilizers directly into the neutronium shielding network. Once armed, they'd have 6 minutes to get clear before the Harrower's core collapsed in on itself. Easy, on paper, the lock connected. They entered silently, floating through the cold veins of the beast. The walls were alien, slick with black metal, pulsing with dim blue veins of power. It smelled like ozone and oil and rot. Whisper, Cole muttered. Route check? Proceeding along designated path, 20 meters to junction. 2 guards. Recommend silent takedown. They moved. Juno took one, slitting its throat before it could blink. Saren shot the other through the visor. No alarms. The deeper they went, the more disturbing it became. Chambers lined with stasis pods. Dozens, maybe hundreds of cryo-prisoners. Humans, earthborn, some unconscious, some awake, watching. Cole froze. What the hell is this? Saren whispered. Juno tapped the panel. Experimental tech. Neurodata siphons. They're extracting memories. Why? Saren asked. Cole's voice was flat. They're learning us. They kept moving. The core was close now. Whisper's node flickered with static. Magnetic distortion increasing. AI countermeasures activating. Shielding breach must occur within 120 seconds. They reached the chamber. The neutronium core loomed like a burning black sun, suspended by clawed rings. It pulsed with impossible gravity, light bending around it. Cole and Juno planted the charges. Then everything went to hell. A siren shrieked. Steel walls folded back, and out came the Syndicate, not soldiers. Something worse. They were hybrid units, part machine, part clone, powered by stolen human data. Fast, sharp, unforgiving. Saren took a blade to the side. Juno shot 2 down before they reached her. Cole ripped one off his back, slammed it into a control panel. Sparks flew. Whisper screamed in his ear. Detonators active. 4 minutes. They ran. Juno was limping. Saren bleeding. 2 crew dead. One more went down in the escape hall, shot clean through the visor. Cole grabbed the body, dragged it 3 meters, then let go. No time. The ship shook. The Harrower's core was breaking down. They reached the latch. The blade hovered close, lock engaged. They jumped, just as the Harrower began to collapse in on itself. The detonation wasn't fire. It was absence, a blink, a breathless inversion. The ship folded into itself and vanished in a blue flash that left nothing behind but silence. Hours later, back on Dock 7, Cole sat alone again. Bloody. Exhausted. Alive. The Harrower was gone. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, the Syndicate was afraid. Victory didn't feel like a parade. It felt like bruises that wouldn't heal, like whispering corridors lined with stairs, like waking up in a cold sweat and not remembering which name on the casualty list hurt the most. Cole Maddox stood in the center of Dock 7's observation deck, overlooking the stars. He hadn't moved in over an hour. His jacket still carried black streaks of smoke and dried blood. His face hadn't seen a razor in days. Every breath felt like glass. The Harrower was gone, disintegrated, atomized. But something colder had taken its place. The Syndicate hadn't responded. No new fleets, no threats, no transmissions, just silence, the kind that built before a storm. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Juno. She didn't say anything, just stood beside him, eyes fixed on the distant starfield. You ever wonder, Cole muttered, voice hoarse, if we killed the wrong god? Juno looked at him sideways. I wonder if we're gods now. They both laughed, but it was dry, bitter. Word is spreading fast, she said finally. The colonies are declaring independence. Mars, Europa, even the Saturnian rings. Cole nodded. And Earth? Juno hesitated. Still pretending this rebellion doesn't exist. That wasn't surprising. Earth's council had doubled down on its isolationism after the Harrower's fall. They didn't celebrate. They issued a press statement claiming the syndicate had relocated assets peacefully, and that any reports of explosions were propaganda by extremist factions. They're more afraid of losing control than they are of being enslaved, Cole muttered. Juno said nothing. A moment passed before a sharp ping hit Cole's wrist comm. Whisper's voice came through low and urgent. Unknown transmission incoming. Source, Syndicate, Level 1 encryption, emergency diplomatic channel, addressed directly to Cole Maddox. Cole and Juno locked eyes. Well, she said, either they're surrendering or declaring war. Only one way to find out, he replied. The message played in a darkened comms chamber. Cole stood alone. The image that flickered into life made his blood chill. The syndicate ambassador who appeared wasn't one Cole had seen before. This one was older, its scaled face stretched with age, eyes like frozen mirrors. You have committed an act of supreme war, the alien began, voice translated but still oily and cold. You have destroyed a vessel of peace and deterrence. You have slaughtered our scientists and guardians, and you have done so with stolen technology. Cole folded his arms. Get to the point. The ambassador paused, seemingly annoyed that its pre-recorded message couldn't respond in real time. We offer one chance to preserve your species, it continued. You will turn over the blade, you will surrender the mines responsible for the sabotage, and you will submit Earth and its colonies back into protectorate compliance. Cole's jaw tightened. In return, we will spare your homeworld, the ambassador said, blinking slowly. We will wipe only your military infrastructure. The rest may rebuild. In time, you may even be permitted self-governance under supervision. The screen flickered and ended. Silence. Then Whisper spoke. Threat level total. Probability of full-scale planetary assault if demands rejected. 99.4%. Cole stood still for a long time. Then he spoke slowly. Open a private line. Juno, Saren, every fleet leader. Whisper paused. Ready. The war room was darker than usual. A storm had hit the outer surface of Olympus Mons, disrupting power to half the station. The flickering lights matched the mood. Saren sat across from Cole with his arms crossed. His face was tired but sharp. We all heard it, he said. That wasn't diplomacy. That was a warning. It was an ultimatum, Juno added. They know they've bled too much. They want a clean win. Bellamy, the Martian captain, spat onto the floor. They want us to roll over and say thank you. Another captain leaned in. What happens if we don't respond? They glass Earth, Cole said flatly. Silence fell. Saren leaned forward. Cole, if we push them now, they'll go nuclear. Not just on us. On civilians, on colonies, on families. They'll make examples. We can't bow, Juno shot back. That's what they want. Fear. Fear puts us back in chains. I know that, Saren snapped. But we're not just holding rifles anymore. We're holding fates. Cole raised his hand. The room quieted. We started this war with nothing but rage and scrap. We survived because we were underestimated. But they're not underestimating us anymore. He looked at each of them, one by one. We earned this war. We built it, piece by piece, victory by victory. And now the galaxy watches to see if we finish what we started. Bellamy nodded. You saying we go for the heart? Cole's voice was a low growl. I say we cut it out. The next few days passed in preparation. Allied ships were called in, weapons upgraded, engineers worked without sleep. Whisper built new AI firewalls and deeper jamming protocols. The blade itself was reinforced with parts from 3 destroyed Syndicate vessels. But morale was fracturing. Rumors spread. Whispers that Cole had lost touch, that he wanted a war more than peace, that maybe Earth had the right idea after all. He didn't silence the rumors. He let them breathe. He wanted people to question this. He needed them to ask if it was worth dying for, because if they still chose to fight, then he'd know who really stood beside him when the sky fell. On the 6th day, the Syndicate arrived. A fleet, massive, bloated, crawling with death. 30 warships, 5 orbital cannons, 1 capital vessel the size of a mountain. It parked itself outside Earth's orbit like a guillotine. Earth's council sent no response. They stayed quiet, waiting, hoping Cole would take the deal. He didn't. Instead, he sent his message. A single line, broadcast across every channel in the system. You taught us how to kneel. Now we'll teach you how to fall. Then the blade burned into the black, and hell followed with it. Earth looked small from up here, a distant blue orb glowing against the backdrop of space. Peaceful, quiet, oblivious. To Cole Maddox, it looked like a cradle on fire. The Syndicate fleet had moved into full position, 30 warships, fanned in a formation they called the Crown. It was a statement. Dominance, arrogance, power. At the heart of it, the capital ship, a leviathan known as the Voice of Order, floated like a god, bristling with cannon clusters and glimmering shield arrays. They hadn't fired yet. They were waiting for surrender, waiting for fear. They'd be waiting a long damn time. Cole stood on the Blade's bridge, surrounded by chaos. Dozens of ships, his fleet, buzzed around them like angry hornets. There were no sleek cruisers, no polished battle groups. These were reconditioned freighters, scrap-born fighters, stations torn apart and reforged into weapons of defiance. Some barely had working engines, but they had will. And a leader. Juno stood beside him, armor strapped tight, her eyes cold and ready. Saren paced at the back, rifle slung over his shoulder, muttering to himself about targeting vectors. On the main display, Whisper outlined the Syndicate's formation. Enemy ships positioned in tri-symmetric field pattern, overlapping shield domes. Recommend fragmentation approach with decoy burst to breach left flank. Won't hold long, Saren said. Once they know it's bait, they'll collapse in and shred us. We don't need long, Cole replied. We need one opening, one blade through the spine. The plan was suicide. That's what made it perfect. The blade shot first. A wave of pulse torpedoes screamed across space, followed by EMP drones and echo charges, fakes, noise, trash designed to trigger the Syndicate's automatic defense systems. It worked. Their left flank reacted, shields surging outward, weapons pivoting, formations shifting to counter a threat that wasn't there. That was the gap. A Martian skirmisher dove into it, releasing an ion bomb right under a dreadnought's belly. The explosion didn't destroy it, but it broke the shield node. That was enough. Cole led the charge. The blade dove in like a hawk, slicing through the breach, its cannons ripping apart a patrol ship that spun away in flame. Behind it, a half-dozen smaller ships followed, Mercy's Hammer, Nova 1, the Driftling, all firing in unison, all bleeding sparks and defiance. The Syndicate responded. Hard. Return fire lit up the void like lightning across an oil-dark sky. 2 resistance ships vanished in seconds. One vaporized, the other imploded from a direct hit to its core. Cole didn't flinch, didn't look back. Whisper kept feeding targeting data, her voice eerily calm in the chaos. Capital vessel charging main cannon. Estimated fire arc, 12 degrees, vectoring toward Earth's orbit. Cole's heart twisted. "They're not aiming at us," Juno breathed. "They're going to fire on Earth." Down below, Earth watched in silence. The Council hid behind locked doors, broadcasting pathetic pleas for diplomacy. Civilians huddled in shelters. Some prayed, others watched the sky. One group didn't wait. A pirate rig in low orbit, once an outlaw station, now draped in blade colors, launched its last remaining missile. It hit a Syndicate sensor array. Didn't do much damage, but it bought 3 seconds. 3 seconds the blade needed. Cole screamed into the comms. "All ships, burn to the core. Now, hit the capital vessel, everything you've got." The blade surged forward, flanked by dying, limping, furious ships. Saren triggered the forward missile array, each one tagged with nuclear-tipped warheads repurposed from Syndicate wrecks. The first few were shot down. One got through. It hit the voice of Order Square on its flank. A wound, a start. The capital ship turned. Now they were angry, and they made a mistake. They focused. Cole saw the shift, the pivot in formation. "They're locking onto us," Whisper said. "All units." "Primary threat, the blade." Juno turned to him. "They're coming for your head." Cole's eyes narrowed. "Then let's make them regret aiming low." The next 30 minutes blurred into fire and metal. Ships fell like burning stars. Friends screamed and were cut off mid-transmission. Saren took a hit and kept firing, blood streaming down his temple. Juno rerouted life support to weapons. Cole piloted like a madman, rolling through death, diving between railgun fire, screaming into Whisper's code feed for faster targeting. One by one, they tore the Syndicate open. The left flank collapsed entirely. The right wavered. The backline tried to retreat, but Bellamy's gunners boxed them in, detonating an asteroid field they'd hidden inside days before. The blade dove under the capital ship's belly. No ship had ever gone that deep. Whisper interfaced directly with the enemy hull, hacked the thermal regulators, and opened a vent just long enough to fire 2 plasma cores into the exposed reactor conduit. The detonation didn't kill it, but it broke it. The voice of Order buckled, its central weapon melting from within, screaming metal curling like a dying god's cry. That was when Earth finally responded. A single Earth military cruiser, the Vigilant Star, broke orbit. Its captain ignored Council orders. He opened fire. 4 rail slugs ripped through a Syndicate frigate trying to flee. The resistance cheered. One by one, the Syndicate ships began to fall apart. Some exploded, some ran, some turned to fight and died fighting. But the capital ship, the Voice, it clung to life. Even dying, it drifted like a leviathan, leaking fire and rage. Cole knew what had to be done. He gave the order. "Ram it!" Juno spun around. "What?" "We hit the center chamber with everything. We don't wait." "But the blade is just a ship," he said softly. She stared at him, then nodded. No tears, only fire. The blade turned. Engines surged. Every last drop of fuel rerouted. Every power cell, every ounce of energy fed into forward thrust. Whisper whispered, "Goodbye, Cole." He didn't say it back. Didn't believe in goodbyes. Only victory. Only vengeance. The blade hit the voice of Order dead center, buried itself like a dagger into the heart of the beast. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then, the sky burned. Some said the explosion could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Others said it looked like a new sun being born. But when it was over, the capital ship was gone, and the blade with it. 3 hours later, in the ruins of the battlefield, a rescue ship found a lone escape pod drifting on the edge of Saturn's orbit. Inside it, Cole Maddox, bruised, broken, breathing. Juno had pushed him in, locked the hatch, stayed behind. He never saw her again. The war wasn't over. But that day, the tide turned. Earth declared independence from the Council. The colonies formed a unified defense network. The Syndicate sent no more fleets. They didn't underestimate humanity again, because now they knew we weren't survivors. We were warriors. And the scrap they gave us, we turned it into the blade that cut their empire to pieces. They called it the Silence. It began the day the blade vanished in fire, taking the voice of order with it. No Syndicate retaliation followed. No threats, no broadcasts. The ships that didn't die that day fled into the dark corners of the galaxy and didn't return. And Earth exhaled. For the first time in decades, the sky was quiet. But victory came at a cost. Cole Maddox stood at the edge of a windswept cliff outside New Santiago, his feet sunk into damp soil, a gust tearing through his worn flight jacket. The wind whispered across the plains behind him, carrying the scent of rain and blooming ash grass. Earth had changed. Cleaner now. The Syndicate mining operations were gone. The black smog clouds were no more. The sky was blue. But Cole didn't look up. He was staring down at a simple grave. No flowers, no marble, just a flat, cold steel plate burned with 2 words. Juno Reyes Blade Crew. Till the end. He hadn't spoken since he buried her. Not to the news crews, not to the self-proclaimed interim governments, not even to Saren, who'd visited twice, bringing offers, medals, peace treaties. Cole declined them all. He had nothing left to prove. The galaxy already knew who he was. Across the colonies, his name echoed like a myth. On Mars, they carved his face into the side of Olympus Mons, half legend, half warning. On Europa, the resistance schools taught the Blade Doctrine, a series of war strategies, survival codes, and independence philosophies based on Cole's field orders. Some groups turned him into a saint. Others whispered that he had become as dangerous as the Syndicate he'd fought. He didn't care. He didn't ask to be remembered. He only wanted one thing, that no one would ever kneel again. It wasn't long before Earth's council collapsed entirely. Their bunkers were breached by their own people, their propaganda centers dismantled. When the truth of their cowardice surfaced, their silence during the battle, their willingness to surrender in secret, their orders to assassinate Cole before the final charge, well, history doesn't like traitors. A new coalition rose, not a government, not a flag, a pact. They called it the Iron Accord. Each colony kept its autonomy. No central rulers, no planetary overlords, but all agreed to a single clause. If tyranny returns, alien or human, we fight together, and they named a fleet after the man who had shown them how. The Maddox Line. 13 ships, built from salvaged blade tech, carrying the scorched banner of the resistance. No polish, no ceremonial paint, just matte black hulls and silent purpose. Their motto? Built from scrap, forged for war. Never again. Cole was offered command. Twice. He refused both times. I did my part, he told Saren. Let someone younger write the next chapter. But they trust you, Saren said. No, Cole replied. They trust the idea of me. Let's keep it that way. He spent his days rebuilding small things, repaired irrigation systems in old Martian farms, fixed gravity generators in backwater asteroid towns. No interviews, no fanfare, only work, only purpose. Because peace, as it turned out, was heavier than war. One night, years later, a knock came at his door. Cole lived alone now, deep in the Andes, in a cabin made from rusted plates and solar glass. No digital locks, no guards. The knock was soft. He opened it. It was a girl, 16, maybe 17, dirty boots, a blaster slung awkwardly at her side. "You Maddox?" she asked. He didn't answer. She reached into her coat and pulled out a fragment of blade hull, black metal, scorched, etched with a single mark, Juno's initials. "I found this," the girl said, "out near the Hadean Drift, floating in nothing. Thought, you should have it." Cole took it slowly, hands trembling for the first time in years. "Thanks," he murmured. She stepped back, hesitating. "My name's Kira. I was born in a slave pen under the Syndicate. My parents died in one of their research facilities. But I heard what you did. What she did. It made me want to fight." Cole nodded. Kira looked around. "This place, you really built it from junk?" He smiled faintly. "We all start as junk. It's what you make out of it that matters." She stared at him for a long moment, then handed him a folded note. "A guy at a Martian relay station told me to give you this. Said you'd know what to do." Cole opened it. It was a single line of coordinates, a distress signal. A colony under siege from rogue Syndicate remnants, exiled warlords clinging to power. Kira spoke again, quietly. "They're not done yet. Some of them are still out there, taking kids, burning farms. We try to stop them, but—" She shrugged helplessly. Cole looked at the coordinates. He looked at the girl. And then he walked inside. Came out wearing the jacket, the one with the torn blade patch. "You any good with that blaster?" he asked. "I'm learning." "Good. We leave at first light." The stars were quiet again. But somewhere out there, someone was building chains. Cole Maddox had seen chains before. He knew what to do with them. They gave us scrap. We built a fleet. They gave us fear. We gave them fire. They gave us silence. We became the noise that will never fade.